I've been told by my GI doc that I can take Metamucil and Miralax together. Also to increase fiber in my diet. Should I eventually discontinue Miralax? This seems like overkill to me. I did solve my constipation problem with it, however.
Hello again. Well, it would depend upon how you are doing clinically. We would prefer to be able to control constipation with the least intervention possible. And ideally, the fiber, diet and Metamucil would be adequate for long-term management. If so, then the Miralax would only be used for acute exacerbations to get control of constipation and then stop to allow for the fiber to be the sole long-term intervention. However, there are some people in whom the constipation is more severe and requires more than just fiber. In these people, adding a stool softener, such as cholase, or an osmotic laxative, such as Miralax, may be needed. Since we cannot know at the beginning whether someone will have stubborn constipation, we may start with both products, and then when the symptom is controlled, it would be reasonable to try to stop the Miralax. If the constipation remains under control with fiber alone, then the Miralax will only be needed if there are intermittent exacerbations in the future. If the constipation recurs quickly after the Miralax is stopped, that would indicate that the person may require long-term use of the Miralax. If it is necessary to use Miralax long-term, then that would be okay. We would base the decision on the clinical response of the individual. If I can provide any further information, please let me know.
My doctor also has me taking a magnesium supplement 250 mg. Is this too much with the Miralax and Metamucil? My Centrum Silver has only 50 mg of mag in it.
No, this is not too much magnesium. The recommended daily requirements for magnesium vary according to gender and age, but is about 300 mg per day. It is true that magnesium salts will also help constipation, some of which are specifically marketed for this purpose, such as milk of magnesia. Whether it is too much in combination with the fiber and Miralax would depend upon the effect on bowel movements. If the stools become loose, then the level of supplementation may need to be adjusted. Of course, total magnesium intake includes dietary sources, and there may need to be adjustment of supplementation amounts based on blood levels of magnesium. But this amount would not be considered excessive based solely on this dose.
Thanks for your answer. I have one follow-up question. Last night I didn't take the mag supplement. This AM. I was constipated. So I took a dose of Miralax, some prune juice and the mag. 2 hours later I was able to have a movement. Could the mag have worked that quickly? Or maybe it was the Miralax or prune juice. I should have experimented. What should I have done to not be uncomfortable all day?
Typically, oral laxatives do not work in just 2 hours, as it takes longer for the medicine to transit to the lower gut. It may be that one of the doses that were taken yesterday finally was active. When using any oral interventions for chronic constipation, it is better to take it regularly so that there is no problem with the delay from transit. If an oral laxative is used for relief of current constipation, it will take more time, which is okay if you are not particularly uncomfortable.
The magnesium supplement instructions say to take daily. Magnesium oxide, I think, 250 mg. I guess the body uses magnesium for lots of things.
That dose is common. Magnesium is used for many things, but is most involved in muscular function.
I don't want to go to lunesta. Rather be taking a natural supplement. Right now I'm taking Valium 10 mg ND Ambien at night. It doesn't always work for sleep. My doctor seems to think I can just cut them in half and be off them in a few weeks, but that's not the way it works for me. I can't really afford a detox center as they're not in my insurance plan. How, say, starting with Valium, do I successfully get off these drugs with minimal side effects? I also have melatonin and tryptophan at my disposal. Other drugs like Benadryl don't seem to be safe, although they work for a while. What I want is a good night's sleep without the drugged feeling. If you want, you can refer me to a doctor who has a lot of experience in this sort of thing.
This question is not related to the original question. The rules of JustAnswer is that separate questions are supposed to be posted separately. I would be willing to address the question in this thread, but only if you are willing to provide another positive rating for that answer. Is that acceptable to you?
Yes.
To get off the current medicines, it can sometimes be done relatively quickly, such as your doctor recommends. However, it also may be necessary to perform a more gradual taper in many people, and since you say that a rapid taper does not work for you, it would typically indicate that you need a more gradual taper. It is reasonable to first get off the Ambien and then allow the longer-acting Valium to perform the gradual taper. Although there is still some variability of the gradual taper, a reasonable initial approach is to decrease the dose of the Valium in steps of 2 mg per day and taking steps every 2 weeks. Along with tapering off the current meds, it is reasonable to use the natural supplements that you wish to try. The melatonin is the supplement that is most often recommended for help with sleep, although in clinical studies, it appears to work well for a limited number of people. The tryptophan was popular for a while, but the studies that have been done have been disappointing. There is no problem with trying the tryptophan, but it may not work as well. Another supplement to consider would be valerian root, which works similarly to the Valium, but is less potent. Being less potent can be good or bad, because it also means that it may not work as well, but it also may mean that it will not cause the drugged feeling that you have been experiencing. Ultimately, since different people respond differently, the appropriate course for you is what works. If you can get good sleep using the natural supplements, then that is great, but you should also be willing to consider the use of the lunesta or other prescription medicines if the natural supplements are not sufficient.
If you have a health question and want to chat with a doctor now, visit justanswer.com/ythealth.